captain here with my dreams in focus, no room for fear. Building my kingdom brick by gritty brick. Every setback just makes me more slick. With each lesson learned, I turn pain into power. Here comes the queen, watch me rise by the hour. So raise your glass, here's to all the queens. Baddest mama moves, living all our dreams. We got the sparkle, we got the heart. With every step we take, we're breaking apart.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another live episode of Badass Mama Moves. I am your host, Yara, and as you are joining us live, say hello in the comments so we know that you're here with us. And if you are catching the replay, drop that hashtag replay in the comments so we know that you showed up and we can show you some love too. So let me ask you a question. Do you really, and I mean like really know what your child is carrying emotionally? Not the regular fine. Yeah, when you ask them how are you doing, they just come with I'm fine. I'm talking about what's really happening underneath that fine. Short answer, fine. The thing is that our kids are growing up in a world that many of us didn't have to navigate at their age, and things were so different back then, way different. And they're not only dealing with school and friendships and hormone and family expectations and all of that, normal challenges of growing up, they're also carrying a digital world right in their pockets that never really turns off. The pressure to fit in, the anxiety they may not know how to explain or even handle, the comments they read online, the group chat they were excluded from because for whatever reason, they didn't meet someone else's expectations, the fear that they're not pretty enough, popular enough, smart enough, athletic enough, or simply not enough. They're just some of the many social media pressures that follow our children pretty much 24/7, just around the clock, and it's right in their pockets, constantly buzzing and reminding them, comparison is sadly available 24 hours a day. And sometimes, the child sitting quietly at the dinner table is fighting an emotional battle that nobody else can see. Social media can certainly help connect and encourage and inform, but it can also become that space, that room filled with mirrors that can distort how our children see themselves. So today, we're having a very important conversation about raising kids and our youth and young adults in today's social media digital world. And we're talking about anxiety and social media pressure, the emotional regulation, what steps we should take to keep them as safe as possible, how we can protect our children emotionally while still preparing them to face the real world. So this is a mama to mama conversation meant to bring awareness. It's about paying attention. It's asking better questions. Creating the kind of relationship where our children, our youth, our young adults can feel safe enough to tell us when something is not okay. And I have two amazing guests tonight joining me to help us with this conversation. So my first guest, where do I even begin? This powerhouse woman is simply amazing. She's caring. She's a go-getter, a true business coach, a friend who has played such an important role in my own growth. She is the CEO and founder of Bomb Global, where she helps individuals and entrepreneurs grow in confidence, leadership, and purpose. She's also the founder of Ladies of Leadership, a community where women entrepreneurs develop their leadership skills and build meaningful connections. And yes, I am one of the ladies. She's an author, speaker, host of the Building a Leadership Mindset podcast, the executive director of Youth Rising nonprofit organization, and she's also a mama, which is the most important title of all. Please help me welcome the amazing Nikki Cuesta.
Hello, Yara. Yes. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super excited to talk about this conversation.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here, and taking the time to join me.
Welcome. You are
Welcome.
welcome.
It was already time for you to be here.
Yes, it's long overdue. And having
I
a
know,
son,
right? I know. Let's just not talk about that.
yes, and we're totally boy moms, right? So that we
Yes.
have in common. And my son just turned 21. And luckily, the world of social media did not affect his growth. So I'm going to come with a different perspective today and just really help
That's good.
mamas really things on what I did and how I conversated with my son, and just the reassurance that he's worthy no matter what's put on a screen, because that's not the truth about his journey. So yeah.
Yes. Pero mija, don't get too ahead of the game. Espérate. Hold on. Hold that thought.
Okay, I'm excited.
All right. So my next guest. Well, let me start by saying that she holds such a special place in my heart. She's just a shining star. I just love this woman. She's a mama, first and foremost. She is an author and speaker. She is the executive manager of Bomb Global and the chair of the board of directors of Youth Rising. And she's the only one and only Sandra Martinez.
Hey, mama.
Hi, you are muted, my love. Mira, she's blushing.
She's been emotional today.
Yes, I was just saying, I'm like, hi, ladies, my love. Oh my God, I don't want to get emotional, and I don't want to get too ahead of the game either. But thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, ladies. It's such an amazing company, you two. So let's dive right in. So as I mentioned before, right in the intro, before you guys came in, our kids are growing up in a world that many of us didn't have to navigate at their age. Children, teenagers, young adults are, today are dealing with so much pressure and so in so many ways. It looks so different from what we experienced growing up with this whole technology and the social media situation, which can be great. Yes, it can help us connect. Like right now, we're connecting, right? It can help us stay informed, but at the same time, social media can become a mirror that distorts the way they see themselves and their lives and their worth and where they believe where they should be, right? And that's when it can become a real problem. So I would love to hear from you, ladies. When you think about kids and teenagers, young adults growing up in today's world, what do you believe they are dealing with emotionally behind the screen that many parents may not fully recognize?
I'll go ahead and start. I feel right now, our teens are trying to find their identity, trying to find what their worth, where do they fit in, what is their purpose. I think that's why it's so important for us to attend to the youth and prepare them about these topics, right? And have them listen in, not just for the parents, but have them listen in and just reassure them that you are your own person, you have your own mind. Like, people are going to say things, and they're not your truth. And how do you really really find out who you are? And as parents, and those that, uncles, aunts, cousins, that can pour back into our children, and make sure they fit in some time to ask those questions, like, what do they want to do, what do they want to be? I think if those conversations started more at the home, where they don't have to go to social media and kind of try to figure it out, I think we would do a little bit better with getting them to just understand that they are totally worthy of everything life has to offer.
Yeah, you touched on so many great points because it takes a village, right? It starts at home. That's where that foundation should be set so that they know, their worth. They know they're loved. They know they're important. They don't have to compare themselves. But at the same time, again, building that, setting that foundation, starting at home. But also as parents, we need to, we should set that example and mimic, because we can tell them like, don't pay attention to that, but what are we doing? Are we really walking the walk? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that we are. Absolutely. For those that I'm like connected with, and especially for this conversation, because it has, yeah, I'll just wait for the next question because I'm going to get ahead of the game, but it's definitely for this conversation.
Cógelo con tequiricio. Okay, Sandrita.
Yeah, I don't mean to, I was gonna say I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just having kind of this conversation earlier with Nikki, and it was like, every generation has their own way of trying to fit in. So how we were able to fit in back in the day does not. These kids nowadays don't understand that. It's a whole different ballgame. Just like it's hard sometimes for us parents to understand what is it that they're going through because we didn't go through it either. You know what I'm saying? And like for me, for instance, or for my kids when they were growing up, to disconnect, all they did was go get home from school, go in the room, chill out for a little bit, take a break, come back, and it was over. These kids nowadays, they go home, they come home, they lock themselves up in the room, and the first thing they do is grab their phone. So they're not really disconnecting, So I feel like a lot of the kids today carry a lot of extra weight that they should not be carrying. If that makes any sense.
Yes, absolute sense. And again, yes, it's so different from when we were growing up because we didn't have a cell phone. We didn't have the technology we had. Of course, we went through things. Of course, we had our own little emotional struggles and this and that in school. I like, ay, esta me miro mal, like she like sideways and this and that. But nothing compared to what's going on right now because of technology. It's a 24/7.
Yeah, it's like today estamos peleando, and tomorrow we're friends again. Now the kids come home like we're not friends, and then next thing you know, they're having a full blown out Facebook fight or whatever.
Yes, yes. So true, so true. Oh my God. And the thing, yes, it is. And the thing is that it's, there are so many things that our kids experience online that aren't always visible to us as well. They may look fine, they act fine, because they sure can hide it and tell us that they are fine while quietly, carrying and going through that pressure and that comparison and the anxiety. And we may not even realize it that they're there. And sometimes they may be acting irritated, distant, spending more time alone and whatnot, giving us attitude. And we may confuse that we just, it's just a teenager thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a teenager thing, right? And our first reaction may be like, what's wrong with you? When we should be looking beyond, right? And asking what are you going through? Like, what's really going on here, right? And really asking better questions. So let's talk about anxiety for a sec. And I know that we hear that word a lot, but anxiety doesn't always look the way we're used to seeing it, or the way parents may expect it to look. And the child might not come to us and say, hey, mommy, I'm feeling anxious, because they may not even understand. It does not go like that, right? But they may not even understand themselves what they're feeling, or even know how to put it into words. So instead of anxiety, anxiety may show up as anger and trouble sleeping, avoiding, certain things, certain places, activities, emotional outbursts, and suddenly just pulling away, withdrawing. And sometimes what we quickly label as an attitude or defiance, again, just a phase that they may be going through, it may actually be a child trying to manage emotions they don't fully understand. So it can be confusing to them. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think asking them questions it's a conversation, it's the communication, to know that you're always there as a parent, that you care if they're feeling angry, upset, and really just trying to figure out what the root cause of it is. And if they're not willing to open, I think when you can relate to them, right? As a parent, we've all been through stuff. So we've all been picked on in one way, shape, or form. Someone called us a name that we're not. and all we did was use our voice to have that conversation, right? So in growing, in raising my son, he had some issues picking up social cues, and do people like me? Do they want to be my friend? Right? That wasn't even happening yet on social media. That was happening in real life as he was attending school. So because those conversations happened that way, he didn't get a phone until he was about 14, 15, I think, when he started high school. And he was never on Facebook until now. And it's really just family use, which is what we first all started Facebook with, right? To communicate with families all around the world, stay, bien presentado with what's going on with everybody. And just making sure everybody was good, safe, and, all the good stuff, right? So when it comes to just seeing the difference that they're, approaching each day. Also, pay attention to the questions they're asking, because they're going to be inquisitive. Yes. They're going to be very inquisitive about certain things, about certain feelings. So we have to really pay attention to what they're asking us, because there is a question behind that question.
The question. Yes.
They're not really telling us directly, but they're giving us some, subliminal clues, and we have to be more mindful and more attentive to that. And again, have a talk. I've been through that before. What you can't possibly tell me anything I don't already know. And we always say that, like, we've been around the block, right? Our parents told us that. Like, you can't hide anything from us. We know the things that are shifting in your behavior, in how you're feeling, how you're showing up. You don't want to hang out with family anymore. What happened, right? So I think the constant communication and just being involved and just securing them that you also have been through this too, and you can help them on this journey. And hopefully that can be one good way for them to be receptive of opening up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. And to add to that, that's why I say it's really important to pay attention instead of assuming. Instead of assuming that they're lazy, or they're being dramatic, or even disrespectful, because sometimes them lashing out, being disrespectful, is also a sign. So I think that paying attention to those behaviors is a way for them seeking or letting us know, hey, I need help of some way, shape, or form. So I think that's one key thing that we should always keep in mind. Let's not always assume. Let's not always jump the gun. Let's have that conversation first. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of really being aware, paying attention, and looking really, like I said before, looking beyond what's right in front of us. Because, as you said, Nikki, sometimes they say something, a comment, or ask a question that it actually didn't come from them. There's something, a comment, a question behind the whatever they said, and that happened to me personally. All of a sudden he comes with a question, and I'm just looking at him. I'm just letting him talk and finish, and even looking at his demeanor and all of that. I said, okay, so quick question: what prompted you to ask that? But why are you saying that? Because I just what prompted you to ask that? Because this was something that really triggered that, right? So again, it may be easy to tag that as a typical teenager's behavior, and or assume they just wanted their space or whatever the case. But sometimes it's just not like that, right? So how can parents tell the difference between those normal worries, right? Because, like I said before, sometimes they may not even know what's going on themselves, because at the same time their bodies are going through so many biological hormonal changes that as they grow, and they may not fully understand what's happening, or how to explain it. Just know something is not feeling right, aside from all that social media and stuff. And at the same time, we know that some worries and emotional changes are normal part of growing up, but some are not. Right, and we really should be paying attention to those things and those patterns and all of that. So how can we, a parent, tell the difference between those normal worries and anxiety that may require additional support? Like, what could be the difference to really pinpoint that?
Anxiety, all those things, they come in different shapes. They're not always loud. They can be silent. They can be, again, like you said, lashing out. It's just you know your child, right? Your child, if you are that parent that's paying attention, that is giving them their time, right? Because they're really looking for just that time, that understanding. They want someone to understand what they're going on in their hearts, but they don't feel like they can come to their parents. Is it because we don't have that sense of invitation for them? Are we always busy? Do we not have time? So it can be a variety of things. We have to do a self-check as a parent. Like, what are they missing? Are there things that they're asking for that we can't deliver at this point, but we can maybe deliver it in another way that still is helpful to these teens, right? And they want time. They want time, they want conversation, they want understanding. So I think when we identify that our children are behaving in not themselves, right? Because this doesn't start until they're teenagers. So they have already developed habits. They have already developed how they see the world. So when that shifts, like, again, it's just paying attention to the questions, to the conversations. I don't think we can identify it any other way, because we just know that our child is not acting like how our child would be prior to this, right? So that's why we have to go and do the work, ask the questions, be nosy. We're here to protect them. It is okay for us to be that parent. And there's very soft ways you can do it, because you don't want them to be scared to tell you that they're ashamed of, having someone make them feel like they're less than, right? Whether it was an attack, whether it was bullying, whether it was something they were laughed at, picked on. We need to know that that's okay, that words do hurt, right? Because they do. We're human, right? We all have feelings and emotions. But give them the equipment on how to do that. Continue to provide them with that self-assurance that they are worthy, right? It's going to take, it's a time process. And I don't even, I think that maybe having someone mentor them, right? Getting them into social environments where they can pick up those cues and be in an environment of community and finding their own community, because we don't fit for everyone, right? It's not one size fits all. So there's definitely resources out there. Put them in sports, put them in all the things, right? That will keep their activity off of social media and put more time into their health, into their mind, into their education. But we have to start that at a very young age. Like, we have to understand that they're going to go through this. Now we know social media is here, and it's going to be a problem. Some people don't even want to have children in this lifetime because of social media. So,
yeah, you touched on so many great points. First, as parents, be able to really listen and not react, right? Because we don't want them to go elsewhere. We will want them to come to us, that we be their safe space, right? Safe haven to come to us whenever, for whatever, and not judge. And us, you and I, as and Sandra too, she has a son. We all have sons, right? As a single mom, we cannot give them everything. There are things that we just can't, because we're not men. So finding that right person, right mentor, to really mentor them and direct them the right way, to the right path, and perhaps really understand in a deeper way as male things that perhaps we won't be able. We can maybe, helps to some extent, but not fully, right? What do you think, Sandrita?
Well, I'm going to speak for myself with my relationship with my son. My relationship with my son is completely different. Although I am a mom of the both, I am a mom of my daughter and my son. But since we're talking about specifically boys, yes, I did raise my son single mom, but I did teach my son also how to be a man, right? I taught him how to shave. I taught him how to treat women, everything, right? So I didn't do that by myself. I had a little village behind me. I had my sister helping me My daughter, even though she's younger, it also taught him, by having a younger sister, it also taught him how to treat women and so on and so forth, right? I know we're talking about social media, but I just wanted to emphasize that
Mhm.
with that also came with the open communication that I have also with my kids as to where I am in the relationship that I am with them today, which is a very open, very close, very tight, and Nikki can speak on that. So when it comes to giving an opinion or giving a an advice to parents, pues mira, mija, we don't have all the answers, let me tell you, okay? We truly don't, because if we did, we would not be having a conversation right now about anxiety, social media, and all this good stuff, okay? But on a serious note, at the end of the day, what we should really do is make sure that we just pay attention.
Yes.
Attention, give our kids room, space to be themselves, and have that open communication and that open space to say, I can go to mom or I can
Yeah.
go to dad. You know what I'm saying? So, I
Mhm.
mean, but again, I was able to teach my son a lot of things that a man was not able to teach him.
Yes, yes,
Right?
absolutely. There are things I have taught my son. I'm the only girl I grew up with men, with boys. So like I know a thing or two about men too, but there's some other things that I just whatever the case. But um yes, we still have all the answers. We learn as we go too. Certain things like hello, like what was that? But yesterday they said this, that today they're saying this. Like we can't even keep up. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think the difference between those normal worries and anxiety, I think parents should look at the intensity of how long it lasts, how much it begins to interfere with the child's everyday life and norm. Usually normal worries come and go, right? And they are connected to a specific situation, and they all comes down. And once the situation's passed, then so se fue, everything went back, come back to normal. But anxiety may continue, right? Even when there is no obvious reason, it can start affecting their sleep and appetite. Schoolwork, wanting to stay at home, avoiding things that normally they wouldn't. And I think the biggest things is paying attention, like you said, Sandra, and those patterns and changes. We know our children. We know what's up. So when something feels different or continues getting worse, we should, that should be our cue to and not ignore it. Like, hey, something is up. What's going on? Right? I also think parents sometimes hesitate to seek help because they they don't want their child to be labeled or judged or treated different. Maybe we didn't grow up with like used to seeking help. We stuck it out here at home. It stays here. That's it. No one has to know. No, nadie se tiene que enterar. Personally, I never went to a school counselor or looked for help in the school because I just didn't trust them. So I looked for help outside of the school through his center. It's really important to stay attentive because emotional struggles don't always make sense from the outside, or it's not really obvious. So continuing the conversation about social media, let's talk about raising kids, in the middle of this whole situation. That, like we said, it can be fun, it can be helpful, it could help us learn and connect and this that. It gives young people a place to connect, and be creative and all of that. But also know, it's also another side to it. Social media can really be a dangerous weapon as well.
Yeah.
It can't make them feel like they're constantly being watched, that they're being judged all the time, measured against the rest of the world. How many followers I got compared to this one, who got invited to one, who got left out, like how many likes did I get, or who seems to have the picture perfect life or whatever the case.
Mm.
As adults, we may understand that social media is often just a highlight reel.
Mhm.
People are simply showing what they want everyone else to see, not necessarily the full reality of their lives. You know, our kids may know that too somewhat logically, but it doesn't always stop them from comparing themselves or feeling like they don't measure up. Sadly to say, but it's just reality, right? So, ladies, when children, teens, young adults are constantly seeing these supposedly picture perfect lives, filter photos, edited videos, carefully chosen moments, right? And with this AI now, it's even crazier. Let's not even talk about AI right now because that's a whole life by itself. How can parents help children and teenagers, you know, young adults, build a strong sense of who they are, separate from separate from their real identity? I mean, separate their real identity and worth from the version of themselves they feel pressure to present online. Am I making sense? That question was long. That question was long.
I get it. I definitely get it. So basically, what we're seeing is performance, right? We're seeing performance on the screen. And don't get me wrong, these are things that catch our eye, that catch our attention, not just at teens, but as adults as well.
Yes.
Where, you know, it's not immune to anyone, but it will affect a younger mind because of the fact that they don't know life yet. And it's us as parents to break that down for them, especially when they're first getting their phone, when they're first accessing social media. There's parental controls. There is time restrictions that you can add. Implement those things until they are understanding of what they're entering, what world they're entering. For me, for my son, thank goodness, like I said, he did not go into the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the TikToks. His was Discord. It's kind of a little other site, which I've heard some good and bad things about, but it's a community. A community of all types of people, and he's an animator, right? He's a coder, he's a builder of games and animation and stuff like that. That's actually where he met his girlfriend at, which they have been together for 6 years. So is it the site, like, did they use it correctly, or was his confidence enough to shut down the noise? And because of the conversations we had previously, when he was given the phone, when he was given the opportunities to be on these sites, and now he runs a community. So I don't have a negative thing to say about, you know, his presence on social media. The fact that he has his own mind, he has, you know, he's just delivered that because of the conversations growing up at a very young age when the bullying started happening in school in 3rd, 4th grade. So we had to go through that outside of social media. So when social media was presented into his life, it was a little bit different. So that's the different perspective that I have come to find. And it's because he was confident and in what he wanted. He's seen me model that as I was building. So I've been truly blessed. But has his friends went through it? Absolutely. We've talked about the conversations of his friends having anxiety, his friends being bullied, things like that. So, you know, having conversations with their parents, and just giving that support, right? As moms, we need to support other moms and seek each other out for this. You know, has your son, you know, or daughter experiencing this online? That's why these conversations on these podcasts are so important, on these TV shows, because we have to be constantly reminded that social media has everything, has a positive and negative to it, and it's how we introduce it to our children.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It can be used for good or bad. It could be a tool, it could be a weapon. It's just depending on how you use it.
Yeah, and Mama Bomb, I just have to just pause right here. Mama Bomb, just going back to when I was in school, like Mama Bomb was that hands-on mom. I remember one time I was kind of failing a class, but that because I was presentada in the library doing like some service work or whatever. And let me tell you, that girl showed up at every school. She even volunteered at every school that I attended in all my grade schools. And she had to also like say, hey, you need to focus on this. Why is this more important? And just, again, having those conversations. So even in social media, like, it's just, her telling me when I had my son, just make sure you're careful, make sure you have these parental, make all the things, like she don't play. So yeah, we just have to be more involved in their journey, in their process, as we're opening the door to this world of social media that they're gaining access to, right? And just being the model.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's just a matter of being involved, being present, because I've seen so many parents that, yes, a lot of them are involved and, they see, they know what's going on, when, what, and who, and how. But some others, they just give their device to the children and just forget about it, just to have peace and leave me alone. And then when something happens, but there was no supervision, there was no involvement. You are in La La Land.
But then we also have parents that add fuel to the fire too. Let's not discount that. Again, being the model, you have the parents actually endorsing these things to other children as well, because of the pride, the ego, how they were raised. So we also have to be careful about that too, like understanding that, it's a ripple effect. Like once you start debating on social media and start responding and giving it the attention that it doesn't need, that's when it's going to keep flowing, right?
Yeah.
We stop it, shut it down right there, unfriend, delete, hide comment. Those are things in place to protect your peace online. So, that's another thing I just wanted to kind of throw out.
No, you're right, because one of my lives earlier this year that I brought the cyberbullying expert, that's one of the things that he touched on. I said, listen, things go viral because people give it the attention that it shouldn't be. People get bullied and it goes viral because they start commenting, throwing back and forth. That's our first reaction. Like, let me defend myself. Instead of just ignore it, goes to the bottom, and it may not be seen by a whole lot of people, or just very, very few. But if you start commenting back and forth, the conversation, of course, is going to go viral. Now everybody in the mother saw it. And then become a bigger problem that could have been just shut down, nip it in that moment, and that's it. Sandrita, how about you? You want me to ask the question again?
No, I think I got it. But that's like what I mentioned earlier, like the different ways of how you call it, growing up. My kids were able to. When I gave my kids the ability to have phone, they didn't have the social media behind them yet. I believe maybe Facebook was just starting, but that wasn't the concept of why I gave them their first phone, right? It was because in case of emergency, here's a phone number. So they didn't really grow up into the whole social media thing. In a sense, they just pretty much entered it the same way we did. But it falls back to like what I said earlier. If my kids were able to go in the room, shut it down, come back out, and what's for dinner, right? Like the way you ladies spoke on, not these kids nowadays. They want to keep on feeding into the feed, and this is where the bullying happens because they don't know when to stop, shut it down. My daughter's over. She's 30 years old, and she's not barely on social media because that's her choice. Because she's like, what is there social media for me? There's nothing. There's toxicity. So for my mental state, my peace of mind, I'd rather stay out of it. I was just, but talking about the kids now today, I was just with, say it out loud, Gigi, with her teens. Some of her teens are 14, 15 years old, and they don't even have a phone. Imagine that. And these are kids today, and they're okay with it. They are. Yeah. I had a conversation with them. They did express, we want to be with like everybody else, right? Because everybody else has it. But realistically, do we really need it? No. They gave me their pros and their cons, with being connected in family time and all that. That's their pros. Their cons is the basic thing. We just want to be like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my point on it. I just think that these kids they just need to be really well, us parents to our kids, we have to be really attentive, because another thing I wanted to touch on, my daughter is still telling me today the things that would happen back in high school with these secret apps. There were secret apps that these kids had in high school. So imagine what and this was years ago. Imagine today. I can only imagine a parent trying to raise a youth today now with the way things are going. No, you know,
Yes, not easy, Nana, not easy. I have an 18-year-old and it's just not easy. Not easy. But like we said before, it starts at home, with making sure our children know that their value is not something the internet gets to decide. No matter how many likes, followers, comments, those aren't just numbers, and that are not a measure of their character, their beauty, their intelligence, and their work. So, we can't just tell them, don't care about that, about what people think, like I said before, because honestly, that's just not realistic. Even as adults, we can be affected, but like you said, Nikki, by what we see online. So we have to help them build something stronger offline. Again, it starts at home. We need to notice and affirm who they are beyond their appearance or achievements. We need to notice and recognize their kindness and creativity and courage and the things that make them different. Home should be the place, and I always say this, I would love for my son to come to me for everything and anything. It sometimes doesn't go that way, right? Because he sometimes kind of keep it to himself. It takes him a lot of time to really open up. And sometimes when I notice those things, I try to ease my way in because I know something is up, but I don't want him to shut down. I don't want to push him away. So I kind of have to ease my way in. But sometimes they do need that little space, right? But we need to know how much. Not let it
Yeah.
last too long. Um, so again, home should be that safe place, because when their identity is built on strong values, real connection, knowing they belong, that they have a voice. The internet has a much harder time convincing them they're not enough. And I really love, you know, Nikki, what you said and how strong Vicente is, with this whole situation. That's amazing. I wish every young man would be like that, like not really paying attention, caring about what social media might or might not say about him or whatever the case. That's awesome. So, um, yes, I told you want to say something. What are some realistic boundaries parents can put in place um, that can protect our children while also teaching them how to make better choices online? This What can we really teach our children, and when social media and those devices are with them 24/7?
Yeah, I think time for it, right? There has to be a shutdown time. There has to be, those boundaries that they have to understand and accept, because it's only for their own good, right? And how do we give them that time is that we replace it with those things that they also need, right? The activities, the family time, the dinner time, the having a daily game plan. And I know it's so hard for moms these days. There's moms working double shifts, there's single moms, single dads, there are all the things. So the realistic is we really have to implant, whether it's 3 hours a day in hour increments where we're having conversations from their day, from what they've learned, what have they heard, or what have they seen. Like, say, hey, did anything show up on social media today? Like, what's the new vibe and stuff, and get them to just talk. As long as we get them to talk, then we have that open door to see the signs, to be able to fill in those gaps if there's if we're seeing those behaviors shift, if we're seeing just the questions being a little off. And then, after time, it's also, I don't know if, friends are, if parents are friends to their children on social media.
Yes.
Is that a thing? I'm friends with my son, he's friends with me. I'm friends with his family and with his girlfriend's family. So we know kind of what's going on. Do I ever stalk his page? No, because I know he's not on there. But if he was, guess what I will be doing? I will be pouring love and inspiration all on his page. I tag him all the time, just those things. But, for every parent, doing the work, it's going to be different. It's going to be hard. It's going to be easy at times, but we have to figure out the way. Time is the first one. Just keep them active, keep them engaged, keep them talking about their future and what they want to be and become, and actually don't set the expectations for them. That's another thing, because as parents, some parents want them to be specifically doing certain things that would
Oh my God, yes.
life. A lot of people ask me for, my son. He's never given me a problem when I take him anywhere. As long as he has his game system, as long as he has that, he's good. But guess what? He's not on the Fortnite. He's not on the Call of Duty. He's creating his own town, right? On doing something, whether it's when he was younger, obviously, it was like Mario Maker, Roadblocks, just all those things, doing it, again, supervised, knowing that the engagement is not all day, but it's something positive, right? So we just have to be involved. I mean, there are children, we set the tone for their future. And if we love on them and just pour into them, they have a better chance of not having to listen to someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it 100%? No. We could just hope, but we have to do the experience.
Yeah, so much great input there. Like you said, it starts with being involved and having those honest conversations. We have to be nosy, bien presentada, not pushy, but somewhat nosy, presenta to some extent. Just taking the phone away. What happened?
I said it's good to be presenta and have boundaries.
Yes, exactly. So just not taking the phone or whatever device away whenever something happens. As far as we need to know what apps they're using. And let me tell you, there's a whole bunch out there. There are countless apps right now. It's crazy. We need to know who they're communicating with, what kind of content they're being exposed to, what they're watching, because at the end of the day, the goal is not only to control their phone use or whatever device they're using, is to teach them how to recognize when something online is affecting them, affecting their emotional well-being, and feel safe coming to us when it does, right? What you got, Sandrita?
Yeah, I think that besides obviously everything that Nikki had touched on, of course, but I think not only at the dinner time, I think spending more quality time, make it a thing, do the movie nights, but not go out to the movie, sit down and binge a series or something, like make the time to not want to have that electronic of whatever sort, right? But at the end of the day, I think what's more important is teach them what is not real. Okay? That everything that you see online is not real. So I think something very important that we can teach, and make sure that through communication and healthy boundaries, because I love healthy boundaries. That's my thing. That it's not a control thing, and it's not forever. Okay. So has a conversation, just gotta remind them, mira, mijo, mija, esto no pa siempre, esto just to teach you, to guide you, make sure that we're teaching you to use your good judgment at the end of the day. Because there's a lot of, again, like we emphasized earlier, there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad, and there's a lot of fake. And we just want to make sure that we protect you at all costs from everything and anything, because it's the same way as if you're in a public place. you want to protect your child from anything harmful, right? So it's the same thing when we're doing it in the cyber world, in the electronic world. That's all.
Yes. So, as we kind of at the end of this, before we close, I just want to um, touch on something that may be a little difficult for families, and that's recognizing when it may be time to seek professional support. You know, some parents may worry about being judged or feel embarrassed, or even admit that their child is struggling. Others may believe that what happened within the family should just stay within the family, or for some it's even it also be a cultural thing, a generational belief, right, about counseling and mental health, and that will make them asking for help even harder. So, but reaching out for professional support does not mean, that you failed as a parent. In fact, it may be one of the strongest and most loving decisions you can make for your child, right? What do you guys think? What would you say to the parent who knows their child may need support but is still hesitant or afraid to take that step? Like, what advice would you give them to on where to begin?
Yeah. So first of all, we never want to wait until it's too late. We've birthed these children. We bring them into this world. They're here for a purpose, and just knowing, just like Sandra said earlier, it took a village to raise our children. Right? It just didn't take us as single parents, but we had, our surrounding families. There's families that may not have that either. They're literally all alone. But you need a village. You need community.
Yes.
You need people. Even there's resource centers that you can connect with other moms going through the same thing that overcome some of these things. So seeking out, within your community base, your physician, because the number one thing is that our mental health is important for every life on this world. No one should be living in regret, shame, or anything. We should be living in joy and in purpose and with love, right? Because that's what life is about, love. So what you're doing, they're going to thank you later. They might feel some type of way, but you need to put those proper channels in place so that they can have a thriving future, because that's the goal, is for them to have that space where they can find where they get in. And it may take some teens longer than others, right? We say all the time that women could, young ladies more mature quicker than boys, right? And maybe boys need more assistance. So putting them again in mentorship, in that environment where they are going to seek the help, and educate yourself about their behaviors, about it goes into, right, it's not just anxiety, it's depression, it's bipolar, it's all the labels they want to give our children, which we don't want to admit, right? And just my personal experience, my son was diagnosed with Asperger's, on the spectrum at 3 years old. I chose not to tell him about his diagnosis because I never want him to use that as an excuse to not take chance on life and being able to try the things that this potential labor could probably hold him back from. And he didn't find out till he was 16 because we were at an IEP appointment. And in that IEP appointment, we had a hard conversation to actually have to admit that I had been holding this from him. But as a parent, I had to make that hard decision and decide to say, yeah, I wanted you to thrive, right? Very intentional. And the best thing he said was, thank you, Mom, for letting me figure it out and being part of that journey. And sometimes parents don't have those tools because they didn't have that in their life. So with communities that are going to support, get them into programs that thrive on building their careers, finding their voice, finding their confidence, finding what life is going to look like outside of social media. So.
Yes, this is awesome. How about you, Sandrita?
Yeah, for me, I say, like you've been emphasizing throughout. I always start, for me, it always starts at home. Okay. start with the conversation. Don't wait for a crisis for you to have that conversation. Just be open, honest, transparent. Sometimes, but sometimes when we sit here, we also have to put ourselves aside, put
Yes.
our feelings aside. So that's one thing that I want to also point out when we are at home trying to figure it out before we go out to for the professional help. Do I knock the professional help? Absolutely not. Because if we need it, we need it. Right. And
Mhm.
that's in all aspects point of view. But I'm talking about starting at home, right?
Right.
Um, so for me, it's like, put yourself aside and también also put your own upbringing aside because sometimes we also bring that our own upbringing. Oh, well, we grew up like this. My mom taught me like this and blah, 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 when reality, again, we're talking about ourselves today, right? We're talking about our youth, our children, and it's been different. Pero yeah, when we're starting at home, before we do reach out, I suggest, start off with having a conversation, be open, give them their space, give them their time. One thing that I learned the hard way is do not, when you are having these conversations with these kids, don't don't break conversation. Let them speak.
Yes.
Not cut them off because you know how fast that is going to shut a child down, a youth, or even
Mhm.
an adult child, or one of our kids that are adults. Let them speak. Give them their time. If they're frustrated, let them be frustrated. If they're excited, let them be excited. So we also have to también emphasize on the good of all of this. Not just the bad and the ugly, the good, because we also want them to come to us and be open to us when they're having a good day. Emphasize, have a good day in school, because then they're going to be receptive to you and say, well, mommy, how was your day? Or good night, I love you. Those little key gems are very valuable to these kids. So again, it's all about how the conversation is, the relationship you have at home, right? And if it's all said and done, if at the end of the day we have to reach out to the professional help, well, that's what the professional help is for. Because sometimes we these kids don't come with instructions. We don't have
Exactly. We wish.
we really don't. And if we want our child to also come up to us and say, Mom, I can't have this conversation with you, but I need help.
Yes.
That's what we want for our kids to come to us and have that sense of space, like you said. I want my child to say, I can't, Mommy, you can't help me.
Yeah. That will be a hard thing to really listen, right? But at the same time, give them the acknowledgement as at least they had the courage to say that they need
Yes.
help and recognize they needed the help. And if they do come to us, like you said, Sandra, and they're talking, let's just sit there and listen. Calladita te ves mejor, como dicen, right? You just sit there and listen because God only knows how long it took them to just really put their thoughts together. And like, okay, I'm gonna talk to mommy. Do not interrupt. Let them just those thoughts to flow. And if they curse, they curse. And if they got frustrated, they cry, then they laugh. And just sit there and let them just let it out.
Yeah,
Give them that time and attention to just let it out.
I'm gonna point out real quick. También, I was with the 7-year-old not too long ago, and this little 7-year-old was crying, and I was like, "Oh, it's okay. You don't have to cry." The parent told me, real nice, real cool. You don't have to tell them to stop crying. It's okay. They can be in their feelings. It's okay for them to cry. So we don't want to stop them from being in their
Mhm.
feelings. I was like, oh, ooh, that's a learning lesson for me because my thing was, ay, bendito, I'm sorry, like don't cry. You don't have to cry. No, they know why they're crying. They're in their feelings. Let them be. And was nothing bad or anything. They were just crying.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. So that just taught me that I shouldn't tell my son or my daughter, no, don't cry because I'm telling them you shouldn't have to cry. No, you want to
Hmm.
get feelings from whatever. Yeah, go ahead and cry. If you want me to cry, go on, cry.
That is another message, too.
Yeah,
That is another message when you tell them don't cry. Just suck it in. No, no, let it out. So, I would tell parents to put aside that fear, right? And um, or whatever people think. And it may be easier said than done, but just put aside and focus on what your child needs, because that's the most important thing, period. you know Seeking professional support doesn't mean that it just means that you recognize that they need help beyond what you can actually help with.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
That's it.
That's it. You know, I will start by having an honest conversation with my child and letting them know, that I'm here for you. You're here for them, with them, and for them, and let them express themselves, like you said, Sandra. And just listen, let them have their moment to just let it out. And as far for seeking for help, you can speak to with a doctor, you can speak with a school counselor, licensed mental health professional to figure out the next step. What will be the next step, right? And just take it from there, and not wait till things reach a crisis, like you said, Sandra. If your gut is telling you that something is not right, because we know with children, just pay attention to it. Don't ignore it. I would rather seek help and find out that my child is okay. It was just a little phase or whatever the case. Then stay silent and allow things to get worse, and then later on wish that I had spoken sooner, done a react sooner.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So now, before we close, ladies, share with the audience, what is Youth Rising about? What is this nonprofit organization all about? Who wants to talk first?
Well, I as the executive director, I'll talk because she said I have to talk before her. And if you didn't know, Sandra and I have been besties for 40 years, almost 40 years. And we have been rocking and rolling. And in launching something and Our Ladies of Leadership group, we knew that the next generation needed to be poured into. As a mom that took her son traveling to state, speaking on confidence, on mindset, on building, we recognized that our next generation was more attentive at this event, that we were inspired to start Youth Rising, which is a 12-month program for teens from 12 to 17. And we are creating this safe space for them to find their core values, to decide, to make the decisions themselves with the proper tools, the proper encouragement, and tapping into like their gifts, their talents. What does the next years look like when they age out at 17? We want them to be well prepared for if they want to start a business, if they want to go into a specific career. Within that, bringing guest speakers and just a tribe to really focus on getting them again that safe space to figure out who they are, whose they are, and just pour into the next generation. And our president has been just doing amazing. And thank you for also being on the board as our treasurer. It has been a blessing, a long time coming. And yeah, we're ready. And we're here in the Philadelphia area. We have a studio here in North Philadelphia that we are accepting teens from 12 to 17. Program has already started, but there's still time to join as we just kicked it off for this season. And we're really excited. We have all the things ready and equipped for them to even tap into social media and using their voice and how to show up in a positive way with their visions and their missions in real time.
Absolutely. What about Sandrita, you want to say something? You want to add to that?
It's a place where you can also discover yourself, leadership skills, more importantly, your own voice. But if you're a parent that's looking for support, we're also looking for volunteers, I believe, or even a sponsorship. If you want to sponsor a kid, a youth, I mean, we can go that route too. You can always, what's our website? myouthrising.org. Got it. I always went to that website because Nikki got me running at 100 miles per hour, so sometimes I lose track of things. But yeah, I mean, again, you know, me and her have been friends for 40 years, and it was a dream / vision of hers. And she was like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, did not know what I was getting myself into." But you know, it's something that, like, you know, we said, it's something the youth needs today, something we didn't have growing up, something that we've emphasized before. Only if we did have this, how would our lives would have looked? I know that we're talking about youth rising, but my daughter is part of the Ladies of Leadership community, and that's, you know, for adults, right? Oh my God, I can't even start to even tell you where my daughter's at, thanks to the community that she is in now as an adult. So with the Youth Rising, we just want to get to you sooner than later at the end of the day.
Yes,
You
this
know,
is awesome. So, if someone would like to sponsor a youth, where can they go? What can they do? Or simply go to the website?
Yes, they can go to myyouthrising.org. There's 3 ways you can donate to the mission. You can sponsor a team, and you can also, we have an Amazon wish list to make sure we get the supplies for each activity and that they're equipped with all the things. Nothing super huge, big, but just any support to help the next generation. You can go on the website. Everything is there. Our phone number, email, you can connect with us at any time. And we would love to start that conversation.
Amazing. So again, whichever way that you would like to support or be a sponsor or get more information, how can you enroll your youth? Go to myyouthrising.org, and I will put that in the comments as well. So ladies, thank you both so much for being here and for sharing your knowledge and your hearts and such a practical guidance with us. Thank you for the laugh as well. And the little Spanglish, I love that. This conversation reminds us that raising children in today's world requires more than monitoring their grades and knowing where they are and making sure they have what they need physically. We also have to pay attention to what they're carrying emotionally and what that little device they carry in their pockets 24/7 do for them or affect them. We have to pay attention. We have to be aware and stay involved in their digital world. So, and create that safe space, you know, for them so that they come to us for whenever and whatever. So, I was gonna say. So, if this episode spoke to you, please comment, like, share. And remember that I see you, I feel you, I am you, and we're in this together. Stay grounded, stay fierce, and let's get making those badass mama moves. See you in the
But
next
I
one.
won't lose sight. Got my fierce mama vibe. I'm ready to fight. Navigate the struggles. I'm the captain here with my dreams in focus. No